Welcome to Movies Down Memory Lane. I'm going to get us lyrics for that one day. Welcome, everybody. Movies Down Memory Lane. How's my friends doing? Andrew, Dan.
Good.
Doing good. Doing
Busy
good.
week. Busy week.
Other than your team and, our least favorite team losing in the playoffs. I hate to bring it up because last time we did a show together, that's you guys were watching a game. I'm like, God damn it, stop watching the game.
A lot has happened since then. A whole phase of the playoffs in baseball have come and gone.
Yeah. I'm
Come
glad,
and
man. When it's my team's not there at all, I'm just like, well, let's move on. But I am glad to see some new teams getting involved in it seems to be heading towards the Worlds, except for the Dodgers. Who gives a fuck about the Dodgers? Such a
new
boring
blood
team.
mixed with some old blood.
Yeah, it's such a boring team. But let's talk about movies here. That's what this show is about. Movies down memory lane, where three friends come together to talk about the films that mean the most to them, that are profound, that not only do they just like them, they're like, ooh, I love this. It's like it had an effect on us as people, as movie lovers. The films that really had an effect on us to today. That's what we bring up on this show. And every time one of us brings another movie forward. And this time it was Andrew who had choice. And luckily for me, it's also a choice I would have picked down the road. So what is that choice, Andrew?
Yeah, so I decided to pick a movie that Steve and I have bonded over for as long as we've known each other, and that is the Cameron Crowe film Almost Famous. This is the movie that came out 25 years ago in the year 2000, if you can believe that it's been that long. Well, it has. It's a movie that I don't believe I saw at the time it came out. I was about 13 probably when it came out, so I wasn't quite watching these types of movies at that time. But it has since been a movie that I saw obviously a little bit later on and have revisited numerous times over the years. It's a movie, it's probably my favorite Cameron Crowe film, and he is someone who's done quite a few pretty good movies throughout his career. Even leading up to this movie, he did, of course, the kind of one of a quintessential 80s teen angst type of movie or kind of young adult type of movie in Say Anything. Of course, he did the movie Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise, one of his, I guess, seminal films of the 90s, and one that gets quoted constantly when you think of Tom Cruise. And then this was kind of this was actually, I think, his follow-up to Jerry Maguire. And it's the movie that got him a ton of critical acclaim at that time. And yeah, it's a movie that I've gone back to many times, like I said.
Let's not forget the movie that kind of links to this movie, Singles.
Yes. That's another one that came out in the early 90s. Kind of very much a precursor to this movie. Dealing not so much with music, but definitely heavily musical influenced or music influenced movie, specifically set within Gen X, within the grunge scene of the early 90s. When did Singles come out? Like 1993?
Yeah,
something like that. So it was of the time of where grunge was really hitting its mainstream. Yeah, all the Seattle bands, Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam. Then you had like other West Coast Soundgarden, other West Coast grunge and Stone Temple Pilots. I think they were from LA at the time. But this movie takes it way back. Takes it back to the early 70s in that era of rock and roll, the era of rock and roll that I definitely grew up listening to, actually, growing up in the 90s. It was considered classic rock in the 90s. Now it's probably, if there's a terminology for past classic rock, that's probably what the music is.
Ancient rock?
Yeah, ancient rock. Bands like Led Zeppelin, The Doors, the Allman Brothers, The Who, so many more others. Peter Frampton, who was actually, there's a little cameo of him in this movie. And I think he was a music consultant on it. The band Heart. Nancy Wilson, I think, wrote all the songs that the fictional band made in this movie. Or Stillwater. So for those of you who have never seen this movie, we're probably going to spoil it, but it is 25 years old.
Please, yes.
Yeah. So
we're going to say, I should say this up front. We spoil these movies. We do our best at the beginning to not go so deep. But as we start discussing the movies more, they're going to get spoilers because there's no way to really have passionate discussions about the movies without spoiling them. So
right. And this movie is a quasi-autobiographical film from Cameron Crowe's perspective, because in the 1970s, he was a rock journalist who wrote for such magazines as Yes and Rolling Stone magazine, which does feature in this movie. And this movie is centered on a young character who's about 15 years old in William Miller around 1973. And he is an aspiring rock journalist. He wants to write about rock and roll music, rock and roll bands. That's what his main passion in life is, but he's kind of young, kind of sheltered. He's got a very overbearing, caring mother, portrayed by Frances McDormand. But she's very much sheltered his life. Heck, she even skipped him 2 grades in school because she was so overbearing. and this movie follows his journey of going on the road with this fictional band in Stillwater, who is an amalgamation of many bands of the 1970s of that time. And yeah, it's just him kind of exploring life through being on the road, through being away from home for the first time, getting into things that he's never been into before, and kind of coming of age types of moments happen along the way. Great cast in this movie. It kind of people who I think became a little bit more famous after this movie, like Billy Crudup. I think was relatively unknown at that time. He's still kind of relatively under the radar, in my opinion. He's not quite the star originally. Brad Pitt was going to play the Billy Crudup role in this movie, so just shows you how big of a difference in stardom there is there. Frances McDormand by this point she had done Fargo and she had done the other Coen Brothers stuff at that time, but yet again,
she won an Oscar. She had won an Oscar.
Yeah, she had one for Fargo.
I mean, really, there was.
I mean,
Philip Seymour Hoffman was probably the biggest get,
and even then, in the year 2000, Philip Seymour Hoffman I think was just on the rise.
Yeah.
Definitely just on the rise, because I think Boogie Nights had come out by that point. Of course, he was in Scent of a Woman earlier on. The Talented Mr. Ripley, he had a small role in, but he stole every scene in that movie. But he was on the rise. And of course, you had Kate Hudson, who Lee. I think was also kind of on the rise at that time. Obviously, being the daughter of Goldie Hawn. And then. Yeah, so many other people in here that pop up. Zooey Deschanel, who would go on to be much more famous after this. Jason Lee, who was kind of just in Kevin Smith movies at that time. Like, he was in Mallrats, and then he was in...
My Name is Earl is the most famous.
My Name is Earl was a little bit after that. But just a bunch of people show up throughout this movie. But what's great about the movie is it's kind of universal coming-of-age film, and that's really what hit home for me. You know, we talk a lot about on the show about seeing ourselves somewhat portrayed in these types of movies. And by the time I had seen this movie, which had probably been a few years after it came out, it was one of the first movies that I really saw myself be portrayed in a movie in the William Miller character. In the fact that he is this relatively sheltered young individual who is trying to find certain ways in life, certain areas in life that he wants to attach to kind of grow as a person, to try to find his way in life. And that's kind of what being a teenager is really all about. And this movie definitely captures that in a specific time, but I feel like it's universal, whether it's the early 70s or whether it's now. I think teenagers are still trying to find ways in which to explore life, to figure things out. Now, granted, as a teenager, you really don't know much of anything about in the world, and things change when you become an adult later on, but still you're trying things out for the first time. But it was the first time I had seen myself in a movie before. And the way in which I was kind of wrapping my head around it is like the way in which William Miller has a relationship to music in this movie is the way in which I have a relationship to movies in my life, where I have that sense of personal attachment, escapism, glorification, a poetic sense of romanticism for movies. Because there's a great scene early on in this movie where he discovers his sister's record collection for the first time, and that's what really opens up his mind to different things in life. You know what I mean? It really opens up your mind to other avenues, other schools of thought, other things. And that's kind of the way movies were for me. Movies really opened my eyes to the world, especially when I got into foreign cinema, you know, Italian cinema, French cinema, Swedish cinema, etc., etc. Pick a language, and that really opened my mind a lot. And that didn't happen to me until my 20s. So kind of somewhat later on in the William Miller character. But yeah, this movie has been part of my life for a long time. Like rewatching it last night, I was just like, I know this movie by heart. I almost didn't need to rewatch it because I know it so well. But yeah, there's so much to talk about this movie. I can go on for days.
Sure. Yeah. This is very, I could I don't want to take up too much time because I have very similar feelings. But Dan, let's let Dan talk a little bit. What's your relationship to Almost Famous?
Yeah, you know, I saw this in the theater, but having not been a fan of Jerry Maguire because of some of the things that happened with the Academy Awards and stuff, it kind of soured me on Cameron Crowe movies at that point. I mean, I say anything I saw Jerry Maguire's Almost Famous. I've seen all of Cameron Crowe's movies, but I wasn't as big a fan of his filmography as other people. And I know this movie resonates with quite a few people because of the coming of age aspect of it. I had other movies that were more in my wheelhouse of coming of age movies when I was a kid. So I was already close to 30 years old, 28, 29 by the time I saw this movie. You know, I was maybe 25 or 26. I can't remember. But, and so that I didn't resonate with that. The part I did resonate with was the music. I mean, when he saw her record collection and she gifted that, his sister gifted, that was something that meant something to me. That would be like akin to if my father or somebody gave me a rare collection of baseball cards or a rare collection of comic books or whatever, you know. And going off of what Steven said, that was something similar to me with comic books, you know, and movies as well, but mainly comic books. I found comic books because I watched a cartoon, and I started watching the cartoon, and I realized it was comic books in that cartoon. And then boom, the whole world opened up for me because I now have hundreds of thousands of comic books because of one TV show that got me into comic books. And now I've read thousands and thousands of comic books, you know. So that was kind of my thing. I didn't get into music till later on because music was one of those things where you go to concerts, you have to have money to buy tickets. My parents didn't buy me tickets to go see concerts and stuff and take me to concerts. I lucked out and saw the Cars when I was 10 years old in a park at some kind of a 4th of July celebration. I saw John Williams because we just happened to go to the Pops every Pops goes the 4th every summer. So I saw John Williams and I learned about his music that way, you know. But it wasn't till years later did I really get into music per se. I was always a fan of music, but not the way this kid was, you know, where he could write about music. But then later on, because of music, because of movies, I became a journalist and I became a film critic, you know. So there is a through line here with this movie and myself, but I just don't resonate with it as much as other people do. And I know you guys were fans of it. Because we've talked about this before, that you guys have told me how much of fans of this movie you guys were. And I always said, I'm just not that big of a fan of it, you know? And, but I do love, I mean, that's a fascinating world to me, the world of a rock and roll band going out every other night, going on stage and having a good time and living that lifestyle. That's akin to me as like a gangster, the lifestyle of a gangster. That lifestyle, what a glamorous lifestyle, the lifestyle of the gangsters. But then you have that lifestyle of a band. If you could sing and play an instrument, go from town to town and and everybody loves you. You have all these thousands of people, you know, adoring you and listening to you and singing along with your songs, you know. It's a crazy glamorous lifestyle. I wish I would have always had. So there's that kind of resentment about that movie in a way too, you know.
Okay, you and your gangster love. I don't know, dude. I need to see you come on here with like a suit and chains and shit one day. You know, but yeah, you know, that's interesting. That's interesting that, you know. Yeah, okay, so I'm like Andrew. Like I very much have initially fell in love with this movie because of the reasons he said. You know, like the coming of age story, seeing myself in that, in William Miller, his love of a thing, and you know how I live, kind of, it becomes your lifestyle basically. You know, you live and breathe it. Very much so. That was a lot of where it came from for me. But it actually has expanded over time, and you know, to be honest, this recent viewing kind of opened my eyes to more of what I think makes me, I mean, I guess you could just say I love the movie even more after watching it recently, because I think that there's so much more in there. Not only stuff to do with like life, but also about just, I mean, the aspect of talking about music, and rock and roll music in general, and like what it means, what rock and roll music means, like what it means to be a rock star, what it means to be a part of that community. And I think that that's something that, you know, that feeds through the Lester Bangs character played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. The band, both of them are kind of the two viewpoints. You know, Lester Bangs being like a critic who looks at rock and roll in a certain way, and then the actual rock band who thinks of themselves as rock stars and how they actually act. And we see what Lester Bangs is afraid of when it comes to where rock and roll is heading. You know, these people that are just caring about how people perceive them and not the music necessarily. You know, they want to be famous. They want people to think they're cool. I mean, there's the famous line, just make us look cool.
Yeah, he says that repeatedly. The Jason Lee character is the lead singer of the band.
Well, I mean, no, I mean
that a couple of times.
Well, no,
oh no, Billy Crudup says that.
Says it, yeah,
and Jason Lee says it
later.
Yeah,
how hard is it? How hard is it to make us look cool? Yeah, yeah. But it's first said by Billy Crudup when they're like off the record, while they're out in the pool, when he's just like, "Can I be honest with you? Just make us look cool," you know, like, and that's the thing that Philip Seymour Hoffman warns him about. He's like, they just want to be your friend. They'll try to be your friends, and they just want you to write sanctimonious stuff about the genius of rock bands and
what's
art.
Fascinating about that is that, you know, that is a small part of the movie, is kind of, you know, critical thinking, journalistic thinking, analytical thinking when it comes to critiquing someone's art, whether it be music, art, movies. Dan, you could probably say this kind of stuff too. We see.
That's the thing I'm surprised you're not more in love with, because
there is this sense of like this
integrity,
critical, this critical world that even permeates to this day. We see movie critics get criticized all the time, like, oh, hey, you must be getting paid, that's why you wrote such a glowing review, or hey, you know, you're so biased, that's why you shit all over this movie. You know, we see that all the time, and we even see it now with there is still a rock journalist world. It's nowhere near like what's portrayed in this movie. Journalism has changed drastically, but we just saw it with like the new Taylor Swift album that gets reviewed by all these online people and whatnot. It's just like that's all kind of still around to this day.
That community, that sector of writing changes with the industry itself. Like, it's,
the industry changes, the world changes, communication changes. But that, like, that's a very small part of the movie, and there's certain moments of that where William is struggling mightily with how to approach to write about this band. You know, write it truthfully, write it, you know, maybe with a little bit more glowing because of like his relationship he's developing with them. And then he also has this tie of this love to the music. The very first concert that he goes to in the movie is the Black Sabbath concert where Stillwater's opening for them. And he's there trying to make notes. I've always loved this little small moment. He's trying to make notes while the Stillwater's playing, and Penny Lane, portrayed by Kate Hudson, just takes his pencil and throws it away because, and no dialogue is said, but it's kind of like you got to live in the moment with the art to understand the art in a specific way.
It's like comparing like today of somebody taking your phone and throwing it.
That's kind of like,
you know, like watch the concert instead of filming it the whole
exactly.
time.
And what is interesting is that David Lynch kind of did something very similar. He said something in an interview one time, I'm paraphrasing, is that like right after the movie is done, people want to talk about it. And he's like, you shouldn't do that. You should let the movie sit with you before you decide to start talking about it, start discussing it. Which I think is very, very fascinating, because immediately we like to have our reactions. Heck, there are people who live tweet movies or live tweet TV shows and stuff like that right away. So like the critiques are already built in while something's happening. It's
because that kind of thing has been accelerated by wanting to be the first to talk about something.
Right.
You know, it's not about having real, you know, thoughtful things to say. It's about, ooh, I got to get my reaction out quick so I can be the first one to react to something so that I can get more views, or, you know, like it's not about actually having something meaningful to say. But
well, I mean, into this kid, he had a deadline, and as a film critic, you have what's called an embargo. You know, it's a similar thing, though. You have to.
It is, but not really. I mean, there was no embargo. He had a deadline, you know, but like you know, Yeah, I'm surprised you don't like this movie more because of just that aspect of it. But
Well, I love the music side of it, and I love the glamorous lifestyle of a musician in a rock band and stuff, and the idea that he could go along. But I don't. I just wish I would have rather. I would have rather it had to be a real band, and this is a real.
it was technically it was a real band.
Well, I mean, I would have liked to have known what band it was, where. I mean,
that stuff don't. Why?
Because I think I would have appreciated it more if I knew who the band was and how. I actually liked his mother. I'll be honest with you. I liked the.
Well, I wanted to get into that.
That's fascinating.
Well, I wanted to get into that. Yeah.
I like the things the mother said, how much she cared about her son, how much she loved her son, and how much she didn't want to see bad things happen to him. And getting involved with these people were going to send him down on a wrong path. I actually think the Frances McDormand character might be one of the most important characters in the entire movie that people just overlook.
I was going to say, look, that you're actually narrowing in right on what because actually with my rewatch this time, I actually agree with you totally. And this is probably why she won an Academy Award for this role. Because I think
for this role, she won for Fargo.
I thought she won, or she got nominated for this, didn't she?
Yeah, she got Best Actor for
I think
Fargo.
she got nominated because this movie only won one Oscar.
Okay. Oh yeah, she Best Original Screenplay. But I agree with you because on my rewatch, I think her character is essentially the moral, but like no, not the compass, but like no, she's not. She's not the moral compass. I think she's. Her character is the most important of the movie because I think she sets the idea out there about, because to me, yes, we think coming of age story, we think about the musical. I think the movie ultimately is about journeys, about understanding how life is a journey, and journeys can go in so many different paths. Because if you look at all the main characters that we come across, they all go on different journeys, and you have to understand that the journeys, you get to where you get in life in different ways. So like Frances McDormand's character, who's to me, like you said, probably the most important character of the story, really. She's an educated woman, and she had a husband who died, unexpectedly early. She has two kids. The daughter, who she obviously raised in this very rigid way, and got her daughter to kind of rebel against her and run away early. As soon as she could leave home, she left home. Okay, so she has a falling out with her. She kind of raises the son similarly, but she changes things because she realizes that she drove her daughter away. So when she raises her son, she still keeps a lot of that same ingredients to how her philosophies on raising kids, about making them educated, making them aware of things and not dumbing them down, but also being a little bit more free, which is where this movie comes in, where she allows him to go on this thing to go figure things out for himself instead of telling him, this is your path, this is what you do, we don't do anything else. She's letting him actually experience it for himself instead of saying, hey, read this in a book and this is how you learn about life.
Yeah, she has that kind of dual role of both being, I wouldn't say an antagonist, but she's definitely pretty much the springboard in which William Miller has to diverge from.
Yeah.
Like but she also helps out in his divergence. She lets him go to the concert, and she lets him go be away from school, which is probably killing her because she's an educator herself.
Exactly.
And she's also kind of a representation of the previous generation, which is something I bring up a lot in these types of movies, where the previous generation, whichever generation it is, always has conflict with the younger generation that comes after. It happens all the time. And she's very much from that older generation, raised differently in different times, different set of morals and values, different world. Rock and roll music, by the time the 70s hit, is still a relatively new-ish type of music. The British invasion happens in the 60s, and that's how we get a lot of this more like more aggressive rock and roll. That's when rock and roll starts becoming all about sex and drugs. You also have the cultural revolution of the 60s with the drugs and the sex and the protests and all this kind of stuff. So all of it's kind of crashing into one another. But Frances McDormand's characters from the previous generation that didn't really experience all of those things. Her children are experiencing those things.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of trying to like keep them in her world, but also gives them a little bit of the avenue. At least William gives him that avenue to explore. And then William goes off and, goes on his journey, which is really important in this movie. I love how they keep cutting back to her and just the turmoil she's going through as a parent, because you've got to keep that balance in mind, that it's not only when children go on their own journeys, parents are also feel that too. They feel it in a way.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's almost
she was like the angel. She was like the angel on one shoulder. Penny Lane was like the devil on the other shoulder. And
I would call her a devil. I think I think
she was that thing that
I understand
luring him into things he shouldn't have been involved. He
definitely do. They represented different philosophies in life, different avenues in life. Most definitely,
was honestly his kind of guiding light in that world. Like if she didn't have a Penny Lane, if he didn't have a Penny Lane, he might have not even have been.
I think he would have gone like
really
probably fallen off further.
He would have. Well, I mean, he might not even have survived. He wouldn't be able to have gotten as far as he did if it wasn't for her.
No, because Penny Lane is a fascinating character because there's so much. You can tell there's so much backstory, so much history with her that we don't really get, but you can feel it even from when we first see her up on top of that driveway that goes down into the entrance to the backstage. You can tell that she's revered amongst her peers. She has a history of doing this Band-Aid thing where she's in it for the love of the music and other things as well, and the lifestyle. And
which is bullshit. But
and she herself lives in like a fantasy world of fantasizing the world of rock and roll.
I would love to see a prequel of Penny Lane. A different.
Why do we need Dan? Why?
Because I'm fascinated by the Penny Lane.
You can be fascinated. Just make up the stories in your head. We don't need the movie.
To be honest, the fun about watching the movie again for the upteenth time is making up the backstory in their head. For example, when there's the scene where William introduces Penny Lane to Russell Hammond. By introduce, I mean like you can tell immediately that they have a history together. Immediately, just the looks they give each other, the way they hold their hand, and you're like, okay, there's something here. So I don't even need to know what it is. I just know that it exists already, and that's a brilliant, subtle filmmaking, subtle writing, stuff that I think is what this movie really has. A lot of great subtle moments like that throughout the whole thing. Characters just giving looks at each other, certain moments and stuff like that. There's so many moments like that in this movie.
And I think the fact of the matter, it doesn't go as far as it should be going, Andrew. I mean, basically, it's based on Cameron Crowe's life, his experiences or whatever. So, but I feel like if Penny Lane did die, that would be like shocking, Instead, Penny Lane doesn't die.
What would?
Well, there's so much more you'll get out of her not dying than getting from her dying.
But then you don't get the moment at the end. You don't get the moment at the end where Russell Hammond's
yells at everybody on the plane. Oh, you guys don't understand. She almost died, and I had to save her. Where were you guys? And all this stuff. Okay, all right.
Nobody would have. He wouldn't have been there for that to happen. If she would have died, he would have just never went on that plane at all.
Bingo.
Yeah. So then we would have never had that moment.
Yeah, you cut off the whole end of that movie.
He would have went home and realized, my mom was right. This is not the lifestyle for me.
But she wasn't right.
So you're rooting for him to not want to be be a rock journalist?
No, I just wanted him to learn a lesson. He
did learn a lesson.
That these guys were living was going down the wrong path.
Well, he did learn that.
He did learn.
He learned that because of what happened with Penny Lane.
What's funny is you talk about the gangster shit, but then you're like, I love that life, but I don't like the rock and roll life. And you're like, that's what I like about the two things. But then I don't want him to act. You make
different world, two different worlds.
You compared them earlier.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying by two different worlds is like Ray Liotta grew up and he wanted to live that lifestyle of being a gangster, and they glamorize that lifestyle when they're in prison and the various different things that they do. This is not a glamorous lifestyle. They're doing drugs. They're having sex without protection.
That's literally what the gangsters
alcohol.
Do. That's literally everything that gangsters do. You're literally describing gangsters.
They're not making their tour dates because they're doing stupid stuff, and they're wrecking hotel rooms, trashing hotel rooms, stuff like this. Look. We get the music. yes, we as a fan get this amazing music, but at what cost do we get that music at?
This isn't Whiplash. This isn't the same movie. You're talking about a whole different movie, and the movie does not explore. I think when it comes to the more scathing side of the music industry, I don't think the movie shows a band that is dealing with them type of problems, like where there's like excessive drugs and I mean, there's excessive women for sure, but not. Yeah, but come on, what are you, a damn prude? Are you a nun all of a sudden? That's just that. If you were having the type of time that they were, you would be having unprotected sex with a bunch of women too. So I'm not. That's kind of not the point, though. I think William has to go on. The Lester Bangs character, as I said earlier, is the person that sets the guideline for what William needs to try to make sure he doesn't do while he's on this journey, and unfortunately falls down that rabbit hole. And by the end, he realizes that Lester was right. I can't be friends with these people. But then there's also at the same time, and this is where I was going to end it earlier, was that the other journey is Billy Cruddock's character. His journey is trying to understand him as a person as well, because he was a person obsessed with his image and wanting to be, even thinking he was beyond the band that he was in. He was like, I'm better than these guys. I could be going to do my own thing, but I'm sticking around for now because I have to, making excuses. So he was kind of full of himself and thinking that, the success of the band was all him.
Well, what is interesting is that all comes out when they have that little riff there and he goes off into that house party and drops acid. All of his real, real thoughts come out. Like, I'm a golden god moment and all that kind of stuff, when he tries to find, I want to experience something real. Because I think Billy Crudup's character definitely understands the falsehood of the rock and roll, the rock.
He understands it, but he doesn't realize, just like William, that he's falling into the trap.
That he's so deep in it that he doesn't feel like he's in a real world. He needs to escape out of it. And that's what he kind of tells William to, hey, write whatever you want. I don't
come across like a John Morrison character to what's his name from The Doors?
Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison. Yeah. Didn't it seem like he came across as like a Jim Morrison type to me? I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong.
I wouldn't say I would think of, because he's not very poetic. He's not very.
I would say he wasn't constantly on drugs either. Well,
he's also not. He talks about the music. That's part of the character's journey. Like, he talks about how good of a musician he is, but he never really talks about the music very much in the movie. Every time he tries to get interviewed about something, he always avoids it because he doesn't want to really talk about himself. Because he doesn't, because that's the thing, he's fighting about.
What do you guys think about the fact that I would honestly, I would have rather seen him as the singer and not Jason Lee. I honestly thought maybe it's just me how they wrote the movie and stuff, but he was the more fascinating character. The lead singer with Jason Lee was just like a side character that I didn't really care about. He just seemed like a whining bitch to me half the time. Well, I really wasn't
lead singer-ish.
Well, that's what lead singers are like.
Well, the coolest people in the band are typically the lead guitarists, right? Yeah? Okay. Steven, I don't know if you could really. Either lead singer or lead guitarist. And
between the singer and the lead guitar player, they're usually the ones that write the songs.
They're also usually like the leaders of the band. Like, they're the two main figureheads, at least for the most part.
Typically. But I mean, so I think that you could have honestly, you could make any of these characters the lead, the person that we follow the most, and you could make it work. But it's like, I think ultimately what I'm trying to focus on here is the fact that he had a journey as well. And so that's to me, the movie is about understanding that the journey is something that needs to be remembered here, because we get caught up in our own worlds and the things that we're doing, and we forget that everything's a process and everything's a journey. And that's the thing that I think I learned the most from my most recent watch, is that the mom is the one that's kind of propelling this, is the most important character of the movie, and she kind of sets everybody on their own path and to figure out what's best for them.
What is so fascinating about watching this movie over like a 20-year period of like, 'cause when I first saw this movie, I was probably late teens, early 20s, and now that I'm, in late 30s and whatnot, is that I understand the Frances McDormand's character's perspective a lot more
Yeah.
in the fact that, hey, like, any responsible adult parent would want to protect their child,
Yeah, I mean, everybody looked at her
she,
as like annoying and a stickler, but really,
yeah,
she
it's
was
like she's supposed to be this annoying stickler mom that you're not supposed to like. And I'm like, when she breaks down in front of her like college class, she's like, rock stars have kidnapped my son.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but it's also like you can understand her frustration at the same time.
Yeah.
You can understand her frustration of her son missing his high school graduation.
Yep.
And like how that's a big moment for parents. For people out there, it was more important to my parents to graduate college than it was for me at one point. You know what I mean? It really is.
On the phone when she was talking, various phone calls, she was
sure.
I love how she freaks out everybody she talks to.
Yeah. I mean, but that's where I'm saying she's the most important character, because she has couple conversations with Billy Crudup that impact him heavily.
And she's like, he's like, she really messed me up, man. He's like, yeah, she does that.
Your mom's kind of intense.
Exactly.
But I think one of the big things and this is a contention of, I don't know where Dan stands, but there was also a bootleg cut put out.
Yes,
some years
we didn't
back.
talk about this elephant in the room.
Yeah. And so the bootleg cut is about almost 40 minutes longer.
Right. It's my preferred cut, and I know it's not Steven's preferred cut.
I actually, I rewatched the theatrical, and I went back and watched like certain like the extra stuff to remind myself. And I know one of the biggest scenes added to this movie that is some people will love it, some people hate it, is the listening to Stairway to Heaven scene.
What's interesting is that's not in the bootleg cut.
Is it not in the bootleg cut?
It's not in the bootleg cut at all.
Well, good, because
it's only an extra feature on the Blu-ray and the 4K.
Okay.
And to the point where, so I actually did look this up. Cameron Crowe brought the movie to Jimmy Page in London and to see if he could get to use a couple of Led Zeppelin songs.
Yeah.
And they got to use a couple of Led Zeppelin songs in the movie, but they couldn't get Stairway to Heaven. So therefore that scene is excised from both cuts of the movie. But there is a special feature where you can watch that scene and you have to play Stairway to Heaven yourself.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that scene, I'm glad never made it in the movie.
It's not in the movie.
It's even because first of all, it's way too long. It's like 11 minutes. It's like
the song's 11 minutes long. I know, I've listened to it like a million times.
It's way too long, and I think it hurts. It kind of messes up the whole like journey of Frances McDormand's character, where she has to go through her own journey of like changing her parenting, like by saying no and then being like, okay, look, you call me, like allowing them to go. Instead, they try to put this scene between that where William shows her Stairway to Heaven and they have to listen to the whole song. And you got the goofy boyfriend of Zooey Deschanel over there, like dancing and doing this. And I'm like, dude, this is so stupid. And it's so long.
I'm glad they cut that out. Because it's not necessary, because you don't need Frances McDormand's character to have that type of revelatory moment.
No.
Like, oh, maybe this music is amazing.
But she also doesn't even have that reaction. She's just like, what do you want me to say? Like,
it's like you don't really need that. You can just have that scene where she just lets him go on this.
The only thing that's good about it is that we've all had that moment as movie fans where you're like trying to show somebody a movie you really love, and you're just like waiting to see what the reaction is to a scene in the movie, and you're just
soul crushing when they don't react the way you think they're going to react.
Yeah, I hate it.
So crushing. That's why I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I stopped doing it with my wife. Stop doing it with my wife.
Trying to show people they don't understand.
I think I saw the theatrical because whatever I watched the digital version that I got.
It was 2 hours. It was theatrical.
Yeah, it was 2 hours. So I don't recall that scene at all. But
the main thing for me is that I find that the 2 hour cut makes more sense, and I understand why somebody would. I mean, like, I understand why somebody would like the bootleg cut, because it's more of the thing that you love, like extended song scenes, extended character stuff. On the paper, it sounds like that's the better, like that would be the better movie, especially if you love the original. But for me, the edit of the original informs the whirlwind of what is happening in the movie. Like how tightly it's edited adds to the fact that William just got put through like the ringer of what it means to tour with a band. But when you string that out longer and longer, it starts to become almost like a slog. And I think it loses something in there for extending it out that
for
long.
Me is I think I've only seen the theatrical cut once or twice, and I've watched the bootleg cut like 10 times.
Go back and watch the theatrical cut.
So I haven't watched the theatrical cut. And so to the point, sometimes I watch both cuts so many times that I can tell, what scenes are added and what scenes aren't.
Yeah.
There are a couple in here that I can, like for example, with Lord of the Rings, I watch those movies so many times. I know.
Honestly, that one, I don't think I could go back to theatrical cuts.
Oh, I point it out every time I watch like Fellowship with people. I'm like, they added this scene in. This is not a theatrical cut. I'm one of those assholes who do that. But with this, there's a couple of scenes in here I do remember. I think the Kyle Gass scene at the radio station. I don't know if that's in the theatrical cut. That's added.
No, it's not. It's added. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the scene where William and Penny Lane go to that party in San Diego. Or go to that party, and in the theatrical cut, there's a moment where you just see Penny Lane's jacket, because Penny Lane and Billy Crudup are in that ice room, and they have a moment in the ice room together. In the theatrical cut, you just see William looking at the door, and you see her jacket be pressed up against it as they're going at it. But in the bootleg cut, you see the scene with them interacting within that room, and then you see that happen, and then you see that reverse shot outside of William looking. To me, that
adds context, but is unnecessary.
It just adds, like, there are certain scenes that add more context. Basically,
and I think that's where, like,
I remember that, but then there's probably other stuff too.
It's sometimes fun to see it, but it's like, I think filmmaking wise, the edit where you don't see what they talked about before they fucked.
I remember later on,
like, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, later on, there's a birthday cake scene with Penny and everyone. I don't know if that's added in, or if that scene got extended for the bootleg cut.
It's an extended thing.
Yeah, because there's a conversation they have after that. That's the whole scene after where they sell the Band-Aids and Penny Lane for $50 and a case of beer, and so there's that whole interaction between her and William, which is really, really good. There's a lot of great scenes in the movie. I mean, before we move on a little bit, like just rewatching it last night.
They played a game of poker for it.
Yes, they gave poker for it, but I think it was like a side bet they had.
It was a on the road poker game that was
where like they had the cards up to their foreheads.
Rolls.
Yeah, it was. Anywho, I think Peter Frampton is actually one of the roadies in that scene.
Yeah.
And which is pretty great if you know Peter Frampton. But there's some other scenes in the movie that I think are all-timers for me. The scene I go back to, it's one of my favorite scenes in cinema of all time, is the scene after the Golden God house party scene where Tiny Dancer plays by Elton John and they're going down the road. It's one of my favorite scenes in the thousands of movies I've seen.
That's a pure cinema scene.
It's so pure because there's no dialogue. It's all emotion. And then the scene caps off with one of the greatest lines I've ever seen is that, William says that I've got to go home. And Penny tells him, you are home.
Yeah.
There's so much in that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's so unbelievable. And to me, I've always looked at it like it's the healing power of music. That scene to me, that's what I get at that scene, is that this band who essentially were on the edge of breaking up and then he went through, Billy Crudup went through a night of partying. They're all dysfunctional. And then Tiny Dancer starts playing and it all makes them come back together again.
Because I think we can all reminisce on that moment where, whether it's a song, whether it's a movie, people have their comfort songs, their comfort music, their comfort movies, where you're going through a tough time emotionally, physically, whatever the case may be. And like, there's a metaphysical power that you get from something outside of yourself. So that's why I think that moment's so important. And the idea of like, this is a home in quotes. You know what I mean? It's a type of home, because from what we understand is like these people basically live on the road. They don't really go home really. And when they do actually go home at the end of the movie, at the end when they go to New York, and it's so like different. You know what I mean? Like they all have like wives and girlfriends, but like their home on the road is different than their home.
Well, yeah, I mean that's part of the Kate Hud, the Penny Lane's kind of naive, how naive she is about everything that she's in. Her whole existence in this world is naive.
Yeah, and it's like this is her reality. Is this fantasy music world that she is established in?
Well, she's a liar from
Penny
the
Lane
beginning.
isn't even her name.
She's a liar from the beginning. She lies about. She don't tell you your name. She says that you don't fall in love with these guys and you don't have sex with them, which is exactly what she's doing the whole fucking time. So she's just somebody that is also going through a journey. Going through a journey of transformation, trying to figure out. She's in love with the music and she's in love with that lifestyle, and she's trying to understand how she becomes a person of substance herself, just like Billy Cruddock's character is. They're both people that love this world that they're living in, but they don't want to get caught up and looked at as like that they're unintelligent, that they don't have something to bring to it other than just another. Everybody wants to be special. And so they want to be standouts. And so, but yeah, I mean, when she says that to him, that you're home, it's just, I think that's just in that moment, he's like, he doesn't know how to respond. He don't know how to respond because he doesn't, I don't think he understands.
He understands what's going on.
I don't think he believes it. He's got to unpack it. So, and that's the thing that's so great about how he was raised by his mom. Why the reason he's able to go through this journey the way he does is because he actually has awareness. And he's not so put off by everything. He has a mind that can engage with the things around him because his mother taught him to engage. I mean, you get it in the first scene where she's talking to him about To Kill a Mockingbird and asking him questions about it. And he's able to recall names of characters and like engage with the material, just like he engages with life when he goes on the road. Like that's why he's able to be a good writer.
She calls him like Atticus Finch. Well, they talk about Atticus Finch.
Yeah.
Atticus Finch being honestly kind of one of the, still to this day, one of the most beloved characters, one of the most stand-up-ish characters. I've seen him on a list of like great literary heroes of all time.
He's considered the number one hero, movie hero of all time.
Heroes of all time.
AFI's number one movie hero of all time.
Yeah, portrayed by Gregory Peck in the movie that came out, 1962, I think. And so that would have been right around the time in which, young William was growing up, and then his mother, of course, being a school teacher as well. And that's a kind of interesting, the idea. And also, it's interesting that we talked about Frances McDormand's character earlier, is that William has, I think, what a lot of perhaps these people don't have in their lives is a sense of a foundational stability with his mother and a home. You know what I mean? We just talk about home. He has a home to go back to. I'm guessing a lot of these people, like Penny Lane, which we don't know about her mysterious past, perhaps she doesn't have that type of stable life. So she's had to create her own stability in this rather unstable world of rock stardom, of on the road, of drugs and music and sex and all that kind of stuff, which of course is kind of crazy, not really stable in any way. But William already has the stability in his life. It's very fascinating story how that all kind of wraps up for him. There's other certain great moments, like when he goes back to Rolling Stone for the first time and everybody sees that he's like this 15-year-old kid and he's not like this adult that he's been pretending to be and whatnot. You get, Rainn Wilson is in the movie. Of course, will go on to be in the Office fame later on. He has like no lines in the movie. He's just like Ben Fong Torres' like assistant guy or whatever. I don't know what he is.
He's just another writer.
Another music exec or whatever. Or another exec there or whatever.
In that meeting, he says, "Hey."
But it brings me back to that time where rock journalism meant something. When they're at that dinner table and William tells them that they're going to be on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. Jason Lee's character says, when I bought the magazine, the Beatles were on the cover, et cetera, et cetera. I like how they drop like certain other rock stars throughout the movie. Like, oh, Bob Dylan stopped by the table last night. You should have met him. You weren't there. And then you get like, there's Nick Swartzen who was in the movie. He plays a David Bowie fan. I don't know if that's in the theatrical cut. Where
it's in there.
David Bowie, he's in the scene for a couple of seconds, and this is so modern it's kind of earth shattering. Where he's talking about, I'm not sure about this Stardust character. I like Bowie when he was doing his earlier thing. You know what I mean? I don't really like him. And then Bowie walks in, he freaks out, and it's like modern day fans do that bullshit all the time, where like they'll critique their own beloved icon, and then love them dramatically at the same time. You know what I mean? It's unreal how that goes. So yeah, it's so many great stuff. Then you have Jay Baruchel, who would go on to be in other things. I think at that point he was in Judd Apatow Undeclared show at that time.
Yeah.
And he's a big Led Zeppelin fan. Like he's kind of just a manic Led Zeppelin fan. It's there's so much small little hints and details in this movie that I feel like you pick up along the way. But yeah, this movie's been, like I said, it's been a part of my movie watching lexicon for many, many years.
Well,
certainly throughout my teenage and adult life.
Yeah, I think also there's an outsider behavior too that's always going to connect with me, and especially with the Lester Bangs William relationship.
Oh yeah,
and
some of the best scenes you'll ever see in movies.
Well, the best line in the movie is by Lester
God.
Bangs, which is the the most valuable thing in this world is the thing that you say to somebody when you're uncool. Like that's I mean,
if you've ever been a melancholic, depressed soul, you understand that on a deeply meaningful level. And when he says he's always home because he's uncool.
Yeah. It's just like,
unreal.
It's like you understand the idea that, people that don't have the glamorous lifestyle, we're usually just like, we don't have no friends. We're at home. We're at home all the time. We're just doing our, little things that nobody knows about.
I cannot tell you how much Lester Bangs' character in this movie resonates with me on such a personal level of just being so deeply invested in something that it's your entire life. Like when he's at that radio show and he's just going off and just going off.
He's like, let's play Iggy Pop. It's in the morning time. It's in the morning time. Not for me.
Not for me. It's a little early for that. Not for me. But when he's just going off about like, Jim Morrison's a buffoon. You know what I mean? I wish.
Guess who? Guess who is better? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the guess who. At least they have the courage to be buffoons.
Yeah.
That's the way in which I talk about movies. Out loud randomly to anybody, and they don't understand what I'm talking about, and I'm like a raging lunatic. That's the Lester Bangs character in this movie.
I've had to rein that in for over the last few years. But Dan, do you have a favorite scene, even though you don't like this movie as much as we do?
No, I already said it. This is when his sister leaves him. She leaves him a note, check under your bed, and he checks under his bed, and it's just like these records. He starts looking at these records, and there's some of the greatest records of all time. I mean, the greatest records of all time, and it's just like I want those records.
Which that's one of my favorite transitions in the movie. It's one of the most genius transitions. So he plays. His sister leaves the note to play the Who's Tommy, and then
the candle.
And he says that if you light the candle, you'll be able to see into the future. And so he lights the candle, plays it, and then it shoots many years later.
It shoots about 4 years in time
into the future. Exactly. It literally does the thing that she says it will do when we get caught into the future.
Yeah, that's the scene. That's like reading a Frank Miller Daredevil story for me, or seeing The Godfather for me. That's akin to those type of situations where you get that stack of records, and it's like some of the greatest. Like it's Led Zeppelin 2. It's like all these like Elton John. It's like
Simon and Garfunkel.
It's like all these incredible records. You're like, I love all this music. This is music that I absolutely love. And I would have, if that was something that was me, maybe my life would have been different. Who knows how my life would run? I just a stack of records like that,
Yeah. I gotta look it up, but I just bought a Led Zeppelin record that's a first print from the 70s. I can't remember if it was Led Zeppelin 2 or Led Zeppelin 3.
Wow.
It was one of those
two. In the documentary of Led Zeppelin, they never get into Led Zeppelin 2.
I've got Led Zeppelin 1 and I've got Led Zeppelin 4.
The documentary. That was a great documentary that came out earlier this year around February.
I don't think I saw it.
They never get past the first album in the documentary, which sucks because some of the best songs are from Led Zeppelin 2 and beyond, So it's kind of
for me, Led Zeppelin 4 is like one of the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah.
So I grew up listening to 70s rock and roll and all the way into now my adulthood. So So this movie puts me back in a place that obviously I didn't experience. I wasn't alive for the early 70s or during that time. By the time I was born, all the bands I loved kind of didn't exist anymore. Or, they weren't together at least.
I'm similar. Led Zeppelin was pretty much broke up by 74, right? Or am I wrong?
I think later. I think early 80s when John Bonham died. Whenever John Bonham died, they broke up.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, 74, I mean, I was too young. By the time 80, I was 6, 81's, 7, 82, 8. So, yeah, I wouldn't have consciously known about this music until years later,
Yeah. But, obviously, we love this movie, except for Dan. It's okay. We don't all have to love the movies.
Get the philometer out.
Yeah,
even though
I ain't gonna get that out right now. We obviously know two of us are obsessed with it. And Dan, where do you fall on it?
It's good stuff. It's not a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It's a good movie. It's good stuff. I just
don't connect like we connect with it.
Yes, exactly. Gotcha.
It's got an I think for you, Dan, for the perspective, it's got an interesting place in like Oscar history, I think, because it was nominated for all of like the major awards. Yeah. Like I said, only winning that one for best was it best original screenplay?
This was the Gladiator year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Kate Hudson was nominated. Frances McDormand was nominated. They were both nominated in the same category. And then Cameron Crowe for screenplay, and then best film editing, which interesting that you like the shorter cut, Stephen, because it was nominated for best editing.
Well, I mean that's what I'm saying. It was that good. I mean, I think it's essential to the movies how good it is. I mean, like, I don't think the bootleg cut is bad. I just think that it diminishes the movies. Like, I think the flow of the movie, I think it makes it a little bit more.
I have a question.
Like you start to get aware of the time, I think, when you watch that.
I have a question for Andrew. For Andrew. If you're making a movie about a band, don't you want to see scenes with the band singing songs? I just felt there wasn't enough scenes where they're on stage singing songs. And you said that, who was it that wrote songs for the movie?
Nancy Wilson from Heart.
Nancy Wilson of Heart wrote songs. I would have liked to have seen them actually singing songs.
There are a couple of scenes.
Yeah, there's in the theatrical cut. There's at least two scenes where they are on stage singing songs.
Yeah, I know. There's a couple, but I would have liked to have seen more of that.
That's not what the movie's about.
I know, but
we're not watching a concert film. We're not watching a concert film. We're watching.
Well, I would have liked to have seen them sing songs.
Well, damn, you should write them and say, "Hey, do a fucking whatchamacallit? What's the
how many songs did Nancy Hart? What's her name from Nancy Wilson Hart? Right.
What's interesting is I actually have a CD of Stillwater songs because.
Well, what's the fucking movie that just got a Blu-ray release? We talked about it. The mockumentary.
This is Spinal Tap.
Call them and say, This is Spinal Tap of Stillwater, and we'll get the whole fucking album. No, that's not what the movie's about.
But what's interesting is they wrote full-on songs, and you can listen to full-on songs of Stillwater. Ironically, there is actually a band called Stillwater, and they had to pay them for the rights to the name.
To use the name. Yeah,
to use the name,
but the idea, like the story of the band, is an amalgamation of like Allman Brothers, Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah, very
Eagles,
much so.
The Eagles, the
even like Peter Frampton. I almost wrote almost
Leonard Skinner's a little bit in there. Like it's
because I believe they're from the Midwest. They're from the fictional band of Stillwater is from the Midwest.
Because the idea of the band was about different bands that Cameron Crowe, was on the road with. So
there's a whole list of songs that are used in the movie, and even if you go into one of the extras on, at least it was on the DVD and the Blu-rays, it was like Cameron Crowe's like favorite albums of 1973, and it was fascinating stuff. So let's see, I think there's at least four Stillwater songs. I know because I have the CD.
Fever Dog.
And Fever Dog is obviously the main one.
At my back.
Ironically, as I have them in my iTunes, actually.
I do remember that one. one.
Yeah, that's the one that starts.
They don't do the full songs. They do like there's one scene where I think they're in Detroit, and they do like a flash through the whole concert where they play 20-second clips of a song, and they go through all the and then it's like a really big show. And then there's that one where they get shocked on stage.
Yeah.
You see a little bit of, I remember that.
Yes, there's a 6-song CD that came with one of the DVD releases. And that's what I have.
Yeah.
And I have it downloaded into my iTunes. But so they did make full-on songs, but they only, like you said, Stephen, there's only 3 scenes with them actually on stage.
But that's
singing.
not why it's not why. I mean, I'm sure I would love to see it, but it's not why I watched the movie. So I mean, it's just you're focused on other things. We're focused on what the movie's about.
It's enough that you understand the type of band they are. Sure. And you get a sense of their popularity. They're not, they're not Black Sabbath. They're not Led Zeppelin. They're the band that kind of opens for them, but they're still this up and coming band. And that's why they're getting featured in Rolling Stone. It's the small band made good, rising star band, got potential. That's the story of the that's the story of the band and the story of the movie with the William character.
Like I said, journeys. That's what the movie's about. It's about everybody's going on different journeys and about how everybody gets there in different ways. And there is no one way. So,
Speaking of journeys, we will be continuing Movies Down Memory Lane in 2 weeks' time with Dan's pick. So I'm interested. What are we gonna follow it up with?
What can I just bash into the ground?
What are we gonna hate next time?
We're gonna hate on Dan's pick. Please give me something I can hate.
Movie I saw when I was 6 years old. A movie I went to the theater with, and it had a very visceral, emotional experience as a 6-year-old, and that's called The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, I'm gonna dump all over this movie. The worst the worst Star Wars movie. I can't wait. Well, guys, you heard Dan. We're going to a galaxy far, far away on our next episode. So if you haven't seen it, then get ready.
Yeah. It's actually going back to 1980.
It's actually been a minute since I've watched it. So I am going to be revisiting that. Well, that's it for this trip down memory lane. Of course, go to over the Chasing Labels page, subscribe, check out the other stuff we got going on Watched Pile. Chasing Labels has another episode coming this coming Monday.
Yep.
So look out for that. Our man Dan over here is a film critic in Florida. You got to go to fromthefourthrow.com to check out what he's writing, him and his team over there. So, well, that's it, guys. Have a good night, and let's get next time.